that really started my deep dive into crypto in general, which was, where does the money come from? Oh, okay, I understand. So then who's in control of consensus? Oh, I better understand the consensus mechanism. Oh, well, if I'm going to understand that, I should probably look at what a node does, and I should understand a node better. Well, the easiest way to learn about a node is to build a node. So I did that. And so within my first few months on Hive, I became a block producer.
This podcast is sponsored by Coin ATM Radar. When buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange, which could freeze your account, you truly own all the crypto you buy. With Coin ATM Radar, you could find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy and sell cryptocurrencies for cash. On their website, you can search by coin, address, if the ATM supports selling as well as buying, and you can also search by geo area, country, state, city. You can also check and compare actual current fees at different ATMs. If you want to find out more, head over to coinatmradar.com, which is coinatmradar.com.
Hey, so this is an impromptu podcast, whatever. We're at Web3 Amsterdam in Dubai. It's Amsterdam, come on. And I'm not going to do another joke. I don't know, that's something else. But I'm joined by the one and only Crimsonclad. How's it going?
It is good. We are wrapping up towards the end of the event. You've had your main talk. I've had my main talk. We now get to relax and do the fun stuff.
Yeah. So before we get to like the better fun talk, just the event. How's this event been? Say whatever you can that won't burn any bridges.
I was genuinely surprised at how many projects are here. It's the tricky thing when you have 200 speakers, which is basically what the schedule looked like. But the amount of networking and a lot of the project synergies, because most of the projects here are either new and emerging and looking for partnerships, or are really established and are now finding the people that really vibe with them. It's been good, and it's been very friendly. Sometimes the conferences can be a bit tribal and standoffish, and I haven't quite found that here, which I really like.
Yeah, I kind of got the same vibe. It's a pleasant mix of interesting people. It's a lot of different stuff. It's been, for me, a great value, right? It's been very chaotic at times, but I expected that, rolled into it. Like, for example, I thought I was doing a 20-minute talk with these slides, at a 10-minute talk, and they didn't have the slides, and they wanted me to do a spin kick too. So I just had to pivot, and it worked out. So, how did you manage with your thing?
Same deal. Actually, I planned my presentation for 20 minutes. And usually what happens is I talk for 15 and then I drag questions out of the audience. And instead I found myself being like, oh, so I talk fast to begin with. This did not help. I did not do a spin kick because I ran right to time. So also I don't have the cool Taekwondo skills. So I just rolled my butt off the stage awkwardly. And that's fine. I'm an awkward person. It's endearing. Most people will then come up to me and be like, oh, you really messed up. Neat. How did that go? Teasing. It went well. It went really well.
It was good. Yeah. And to be fair, it was more of a factor of I trust these pants to not, because I have busted out of a few pants by doing something that I couldn't otherwise take. And it just happens. But so you've been in crypto for a while. I'd like to, kind of cover your sort of unique position because, first of all, right now in the Hive ecosystem, you're kind of unaffiliated almost because you're not paid by the DAO. You're just doing this. They pay for the lovely graphics and things like that, but not you. Just doing this volunteer. Yeah, you seem to be one of the most important people in the ecosystem as far as like what actually gets done. So why don't you just take your time. How you got into crypto and decentralized tech and how that led you to Hive and how that led you to be an indentured servant for Hive.
That's good terminology. Yeah. Okay. So, I found crypto how most people I assume did, which is you had like one cool, dark kind of like shadowy nerd friend that became the shadowy hackers of the world. And I live in Vancouver, which is a very ETH-centric town.
I'm sorry.
I know. You say you're sorry, but then you come and you breathe the fresh mountain air full of homegrown weed, and you go up the mountain and ski down with a beer in your hand and spend après on the beach. It's pretty awesome. But yes, it was an East-centric town at the time. And so Larva Labs, obviously, a Vancouver outfit. So I started in Ethereum. And that obviously was, I'd heard of Bitcoin because the first Bitcoin ATM in the world was in Vancouver as well.
So what year was that? I might have to fact check you on that one.
You might have to, but the one that everybody talks about and that everybody knows is the one at Waves downtown. And that's it's a local coffee shop brand. And that was a big hella deal. And what year was that? Go effing fish. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to get you.
Whatever you want. I don't make enough to care.
All right. Speaking of indentured servitude.
So the only reason I bring that up is because some of my friends, the Harvey brothers, invented the Bitcoin ATM in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And so was this like the first publicly deployed one? Was it one of theirs? It's just my old lore brain just wants to know. But you could be right. In which case, I would love to know if that's true.
Somebody else wants an interview.
You want to put them on?
Oh, I guess I could. No. We're going to decline. How do I decline? There we go.
There we go.
Tech mogul here. So anyways, you know what? I wouldn't actually challenge you on that with you being
it might be
quasi-reporter and doing your digging and stuff. But
I need to add that to my bio, quasi-reporter, doing my digging and stuff.
Duh. So brevity is the source of all wit. And East-centric town. We'll try and get back on track. But yes, so lots of crypto nerds in Vancouver. And so I found ETH, and then I immediately dove into Bitcoin, and I got Bitcoin right away. Bitcoin made sense to me. They're not going to give up. So at that point, I was in this really, I was in a primed place for adoption of certain types of technology that was emerging at that time. I understood crypto just enough to be really, really interested. And it was starting to teach me principles of, economics that I had never approached before. And I hated social media. I still hate social media, but I really hated the options at that time, like 2016, 2017. I don't even remember what we were all doing back then. Probably MySpace, maybe. I didn't do any of it. A
lot of Facebook, unfortunately.
I hung on to, I still am on IRC. It's not my jam. But there were rumblings about crypto social media. And, the word 2017 was a huge period for that meta the first time around. And there was a blockchain called Steem at the time. And I had heard people were like, well, if you're on social media, you could come here and you could earn some crypto. And that was a value proposition that was just enough to get me in the door. You can earn a bit. Oh, I'm a travel photographer. I do a bunch of interesting content, but I don't post it on social media. I hate it. Maybe I can monetize it. Interesting. So I tried that, and I did fairly well. And within the first week or two, it was like, but where does the money come from?
Where does the yield come from?
That's right. Where do these magic internet beans come from? I understand you put money into, Bitcoin. I buy a Bitcoin, you give me a Bitcoin. But now I'm not paying you for this. So why am I getting it? And if that's the case, is it too good to be true? So that really started my deep dive into crypto in general, which was, where does the money come from? Oh, okay, I understand. So then who's in control of consensus? Oh, I better understand the consensus mechanism. Oh, well, if I'm going to understand that, I should probably look at what a node does, and I should understand a node better. Well, the easiest way to learn about a node is to build a node. So I did that. And so within my first few months on Hive, I became a block producer. And so
was that Steem or Hive?
I said Hive because my heart is here. But you're right. My first few months on Steem. Fact checked again.
No, I was just curious because I was wondering if that's happened after the fork, you were doing all this, or it was back in the day. But yeah,
you're right. Fact checked again, and correctly so. So yes, on Steem, within my this is my first couple months really in any crypto ecosystem. Fuck it, I'm going to deploy a node, and that went really well. And of course, once you're a block producer, a validator, whatever you want to call it in our ecosystem, we call them witnesses, as they are witness to all the transactions that are happening. You get rewards for that. So that was, now I did have crypto coming in from this ecosystem in a couple different ways. So you get absolutely involved. And in delegated proof of stake, which is the consensus model for Steem and Hive, the way that you get to validate blocks and the way that you get to validate more blocks, ergo making more reward, is the community has to vote for you. They have to say, I have this amount of stake and I trust you as a block producer. I think you're doing a good job of securing the network or whatever it is you're doing, so I vote for you. So getting involved with the community is very common in this ecosystem because you're stumping for votes, essentially. It's not just let me pool my money behind you and you're going to pay me and I like you best. Doesn't work like that. So inherently, all these curiosities, all these interests that had already intersected in this ecosystem became part of my learning journey, and then inherently became, again, the basis for everything I've done in crypto since. It taught me a lot, but I became invested in the people and the community because I had to be to get ahead in the block production game, which sounds really mercenary, and it wasn't, but it was an organic thing. Once I got caught in that death spiral, it was all the way down the whole way.
The community death spiral for sure. One thing that's kind of interesting in this thing so far, a lot of it's similar to what I've done, but it's kind of fun. Like, no one just starts running a node. Like, I ran a Lightning node, for example, and no Lightning people did. Is it just something about you've always been so first principles where you just like, what's this new car thing? Oh, I'm going to change oil and do this just to figure out how, like, get under the hood. Is that just something you've always done, or is this just kind of unique to this crypto journey?
It's a good question. I've never actually been asked that, nor have I thought about it before.
Think fast.
Oh, shit. No, I have an insatiable curiosity, but it doesn't express itself in all arenas. And in fact, sometimes I will be very curious about something and I will be a lazy piece of shit and be like, someday, and then never return to it again. So crypto has had a real hold on me, and I think it is ideological alignment in that, yes, money is great. Yes, the community is awesome. All these people are super cool. Yes, the tech is interesting. And I'm already truly falling in love with all of the things that crypto and blockchain affords me. And of course, now we don't even use those terms. We want to use Web3 because it's a less poisoned term to the wider world.
Which is weird to me because, like, for me, Web3 almost has like a scammier undertone than crypto, but that's just because I'm old.
That's also because you've been in Web3. And lots of people use Web3 to avoid using crypto and therefore do scammy things in Web3 because crypto is only for criminals. And the times are changing. I know that's not valid anymore, but it is. It encompasses more than just cryptocurrency. So yeah, I would say that this industry, this space, these people have a hold on me that other pursuits have not. Otherwise, I'm a very sort of outdoorsy kind of person. Like, my curiosities and my exploration is like outside of the tech space most of the time. So yeah, Hive and Steem, and then the transition into Hive has been a big change for me because just like you, I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time in conferences, hotels, chatting with people. I don't love all of it, and I don't hate all of it. It's been a really interesting expansion to my life for sure.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're doing almost like a full-time job at this, but it's not like a paid gig. And first off, how did you get into this level of responsibility? Not just, you just volunteered a lot, but like, how did you become the point person for all this stuff? And how'd you do that not paid? And second, when, if ever, would you end up being paid for this kind of thing?
Yeah. So to kind of trace that is to trace through the Hive Steem split. And so actually in early days, Steem was owned by Steem Inc. It's a whole thing. We could spend all day on this, but there was a blockchain called Steem, built by and maintained by a company called Steem Inc. And the flagship DApp platform interface was Steemit. So Steem Inc. had a big dev fund, and they were using that, and they were like, hey, we don't need to vote on validators. We don't care about governance. We're just going to use these funds for us. We're going to sell them occasionally when we need to, and we're going to, build the blockchain code and whatever you guys want. And that was working really well. And so at the time, I became quite close with the Steem Inc. team because they were users of the platform as well, and I knew a couple of them. And so briefly, I actually did consider taking a position with Steem Inc. But damn my morals, I was in consensus at the time. I was a consensus witness, and it felt a little icky to be a community elected consensus witness and then also work for a centralized team, even if they're the team involved with the chain. So I put that aside, but I maintained kind of that connection to comms, especially, and kind of helping demystify what was happening with the core development and taking it back to the community and being a conduit for that. And that became, people started coming to me for other stuff. And it was like, well, I have an understanding of this, and whoop, there you go. However, then came this community takeover, this blockchain takeover, and the consensus witnesses obviously were very involved with this. And the very, very TLDL version of it would be that Justin Sun came in, bought Steem Inc., and therefore also bought their developer fund allocation and had no such intentions of not voting for consensus. And his plan was to just basically turn Steem Inc. into a Tron delivery vehicle, and then also to extract some of the value that he put in buying it, which is fine. That's what an acquisition is for. But it immediately threatened pretty much everything that was built on top of the chain, everybody's businesses, everybody's ideologies. And it was a very uncomfortable period. And it led to him essentially using that development fund to vote for his own witnesses, his own block producers. And that's obviously very problematic, because if you've got 20 consensus producers and one person has bought up a development fund and put in 20 puppet witnesses that are all run on one server, which is what was being done, you're not securing the network. That's not even a network. That's bullshit. And so there was this protracted fight.
We need to patent that phrase. That's not even a network. That's bullshit.
And we're going to go around to projects and we'll have a stamp and we'll be like, you bullshit. I love it. Yes. Network or bullshit. It's your new like mini show.
I'll make some little like sticker that's just like hand on the hip. That's not even the network. That's bullshit. And just like put it on things.
Oh,
we're happening.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Patent pending. Patent pending. So in any case, there was this big protracted fight, and the community, believe it or not, actually managed to muster up enough stake to take back control. It was insane. People were buying as much Steem as they could get their hands on. People who had never voted in governance but who had staked assets were now like, hell yeah, pull together. And we did. We actually managed to wrest back control from his puppet witnesses. And that's insane, first of all. And it got to the point where there was no Steem left to buy. There was no unstaked or staked assets that weren't being used in this fight. And that's when things went really sideways. So Justin Sun actually talked to a bunch of the exchanges, including Binance and Huobi, and told them that Steem was under attack, which is not true unless he was talking about himself. However, they were like, well, okay, what do we do? And he said, okay, well, we're going to power up the liquid that you have, customer liquid, who are trading on your platform. We're going to power it up, stake it, and we're going to use it to vote for my witnesses. And that's what happened. And that has never happened before in history. Obviously, staking programs are common with centralized exchanges, but never to wrest control of a blockchain, never under this type of lies. I was going to look for a politer word. Never with lies. And now, it can't be undone. It's a prolonged unstaking period. So now you have tied up customer funds for an exchange for 13 weeks. What do? There's no way for them to fulfill any of their obligations. Now the exchanges are mad at Justin Sun too. So that was a mess. And a lawsuit actually came out of that, which the final sort of judgment was that the people who were willing to dox actually did win. So super cool. Took a long time. From there, we realized we can't win. That's it. It's over. We literally cannot wrest back control. Our own assets are being used against us. So what do we do now? And how do we kind of cut out this malignant cancer that we had growing in our space, which was a developer fund that was not under community control? And our idea was, well, then we're going to fork. We're going to fork away. We're going to leave you, whatever you've done, whatever you have, you take it. We'll just go. We'll make our own blockchain with hookers and blow. Except we just didn't do hookers and bloat. We just made our own chain.
I do have a friend who's like what takes pictures of models and posts them on Hive. He's from the Dash community, does that. So we don't have the blow.
And actually on Steem, there was, I think there was D-porn, and it never really got off the ground. But, they gave it the college try.
They give it the good old oven.
The good old college try. I was going to say a bunch of stuff, and all of them were euphemisms. So I just fell back on that one. And with the reputation of going away to college, it's still bad. So to wrap up this gigantic sort of how did we get here thing, the top 20 and a bunch of sort of the core development groups, so Block Trades is one of the biggest aspects of that, said, okay, well, we're forking, we're gonna do this, we're gonna choose a name, and we're gonna go. And there was no guarantee that this coin would be worth anything. We just said, we'll copy the balances over, and the only difference is that fund that was bought and is now being used against us, when we copy that balance to the new chain, it will become a DAO controlled by everyone. So we're not going to burn it. We're not going to do anything else. We're just going to say on the new chain, it's not going to Justin Sun. It's not going to be used in governance. It's going into a keyless DAO that will be controlled by a voting mechanism on chain by everyone. There will be no hands-on manipulation of these wallets by anyone. And that's what happened. But of course, that meant people had to take charge. And it was really, okay, so who's going to do that? Well, it's going to be consensus witnesses and sort of people in the periphery of that. So witnesses, not just consensus witnesses, but witnesses in general, all hands on deck, because you are going to have to kickstart a whole new chain. And it's got to deploy. You're going to have to talk with the community about who's going to get what. How are we going to mirror balances? What does this look like? What are our goals? And what happens if nobody actually comes? And thank goodness, everybody did. It is the feel-good story of crypto. There was no reason for them to do that. And I always hesitate to get to this part of the story because it still does choke me up. Mm-hmm. There are so many people with their lives and their livelihoods and their time and their families and their friends and their so much sunk into this chain. And they had every reason to be so fucking terrified. And it felt like we were taking this fluttering baby bird that represented everything they had built in our hands. And so what if we messed up and we crushed it or we dropped it? And that's not what happened. And that is, a testament to how strong this community was. And here we are 5 years later, almost, celebrating the fact that it's not only survived, it has thrived. We are the only fork of a blockchain ever in existence to actually outperform the legacy chain. And that is sad and fucking amazing. So.
Yeah, unless some people say Ethereum Classic is a legacy chain, but you're right. I'm just being pedantic here,
and I think it's fair. And boy, oh boy, will you ever touch people off if you bring up Ethereum Classic in some circles? Boy, oh boy, I
forget it exists.
Topic. It's fair. It's fair.
To be fair, Ethereum Classic forgets it exists.
Yes, and it is really interesting because the only Ethereum Classic devs I've ever met in my life, I met through Steem and Hive. Actually, they were, they were poking around to see what else was happening in the space, I guess, while they were still working on Ethereum Classic. So I hope they're still functional? ?
Yeah. So
upwards inflection.
When you're in crypto for this long, you do kind of feel like a historian because of all this, and it is kind of an interesting point about Hive being like the first, one of the very few community-only chains, and the only one where the child outlived the parent or whatever so far. I mean,
yeah,
who knows what else, but so how did that end up where you ended up doing everything for free in a good way?
We're getting there. But yeah, so basically when everybody took the reins and basically had to voluntarily take on jobs during this fork, that's basically where it really got kicked into overdrive, was because there is no Steem at Inc. anymore. There's nothing. And so, yes, you can be a node runner and you can just do that. But that's not going to be enough. And so many people have stepped into different types of jobs. But I'm in sort of a unique space in that I understand the back end of things to a degree. I'm certainly not core dev proficient, but I can understand what's going on quite well. And I can translate that into normie speak, which a lot of people can do, but it doesn't necessarily translate to a retained learning. And that is a skill of mine for sure. And it's endearing to people. People like to be talked to like they're not stupid, and they're not. But this space can make you feel stupid. And it's one thing that I'm very proud about Hive. You know, you will go to a Hive Fest, and you've been to one.
Yes, I have.
Representing Dash, bringing it to Hive Fest. Great partnerships from that. But you can talk to the number one validator on the chain, and you won't even, like, they're chill, they're quiet, they're interested in you as a person. There's no condescension. And I think that comes from that community first perspective. But yeah, so it just meant that who is going to do these things? And at first it was necessity. This chain doesn't go if these things aren't done.
Mhm.
I am a validator and I have a skill set that works here. I'm going to do them. And I work in a career that gave me quite a bit of leniency and the ability to kind of work on the clock. So sounds terrible, and hope they're not watching. But they also do know, like, my employer at the time was like, yeah, tell me more about Web3. Like, oh, you're taking some vacation because you're going to go to like 5 conferences in a row. That's so cool. I'll look at your speeches. Like, it was nice because it wasn't competition with the industry I was in, and also was a bit of an interest of theirs because I was so passionate about it. And initially, a lot of what I was doing was podcasting and live streaming and individual brand building. Holy. And of course, that makes people know you even more. And the more that people know you, the more they make requests of you. And then it becomes, is that reasonable within my day-to-day? Oh, yeah, it falls in with what I'm already doing. And so it did. It became a flywheel of, is this a thing I can take on? Yes, that's a thing I can take on. Is this a thing that fits with what I'm doing that doesn't annoy me and make me frustrated? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so at some point it really did become, where is the liaison? That person who's talking to the community, it also is very valuable in B2B. Who is the person that's going to bridge the gap between these core dev, core developers and core team, as we would call them, and exchanges or other businesses? And as a project manager and as a communicator and an educator, that is right in my wheelhouse. And so that kind of became the soul of what I'm doing. And that's mostly what I'm doing now a lot of the time. And so I have pulled back quite a bit in this last year because it got to the point where, unfortunately, without a salary, the balancing act was getting harder and harder and harder. And so now I'm in a weird spot where proposals are tricky. And I mean, every ecosystem has a different one. And that's obviously how you're operating as well. For me, I'm stuck in a spot of, do I make a back pay proposal for work that's already done that can no longer be quantified? Like, I can't give you a list of what hours did you spend? What KPIs were there? That's impossible after if you're counting legacy chain, almost 7 years of this, and also some rewards that were obviously gained through block production. But that hamstrings me going forward because without at least some certainty or some income, I can't make the switch full time. And so it's an odd place to be in. And it's not one that I'm horrifically uncomfortable being in. But I do think there is a weird community aspect of people going, well, do it full time or I won't support you. And people who are like, I'm not paying you to do it full time. Like, you're doing it now. And so there's no way to make everybody happy. And I think that's just a thing you need to roll with in this space. But I know you've been really quite successful on this front to a degree, in that you have been able to kind of push forward and define a position. And there are some differences between Hive's DAO and Dash's DAO. And I don't know all of them as well. But so you've kind of found a way within your ecosystem to really nail that down and kind of define a position for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been sort of participating in this kind of thing for like almost 9 years. I was named in some Dash proposal I didn't put in myself in mid 2016 or so. And let me say, we lovably call the DAO the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden everything is everyone's business and people love drama. Um, it wasn't until in 2019, the end of 2019, I like left for a few years. I still stuck around, but I started this show, right? And then I did some work for Zcash, did some other contracting work here and there, and kind of went out there and saw the rest of the world. And then when I came back, it wasn't like, oh, like, I feel like if you have some value to give and you just do it and you want money for it, that's fine. It's when you, are looking for something to monetize that people smell it on you.
Oh yeah. And it is contentious, and you're right. And it's the same in Hive's DAO, and maybe even more so, is that it's so difficult because most people get started with either an underdeveloped monetization plan, and I'm not necessarily talking about workers, but like proposals in general. They have an underdeveloped monetization plan, or it is a monetization plan that relies on payment up front. And of course, people are skeptical. I mean, what we've seen across this space is DAO abuse. Lots of DAOs, lots of foundations run like...
That's the A in DAO, decentralized abuse organization.
Putting the A in all sorts of swear words. That being said, it's a tricky chicken and egg problem almost. But if you look at these corporate styled structures that arise because you need organization, they tend to treat your foundation like a budget. If I don't spend it this year, they'll say you didn't need it, so we won't give it to you. And so I think Polkadot is a pretty big offender of just, what the fuck? DAO spending. WTF DAO. And so in our ecosystem, it's actually the opposite. And I would argue, and I'm going to get so much heat for this, I would argue that our DAO is actually almost a little bit too strict. And I say that in that there are proposals that are awesome. They're huge, they're big, and they are long running. And I think they're valuable. That's exactly what we need. But what it means is now we've adapted and shaped the culture around that type of proposal. And so proposals that maybe are smaller, shorter, little funds for small things, taking chances on things that maybe they don't work out, because that's part of this space. Those get shot down immediately, or they just never get traction. And while I understand why that may be the case, sticking solely to a rubric where we only look at long-term proposals with large amounts of money, because they're very easy to say you're delivering, you're not delivering, there's a tangible product and, an expected long-term roadmap. That's an easy understanding. But somebody who says, okay, well, I only need $1,000 to start this, people are like, no. Like, it's just out of hand, no. And there's always competition for resources, because this space, in a lot of ways, VCs have trained this space to be incredibly competitive for resources, even though there's tons of money being thrown at it. So again, there is sort of this personal ownership of the DAO that everybody feels, that I think makes them, again, more critical of proposals, as if the money is going to run out. And make no mistake, it would. If the spending was willy-nilly, it would. But also, I think our purse strings are a little bit too tight, in that the intimidation factor and the difficulty factor actually stops people from even attempting it. Do you find that in some of your other experiences?
Yeah, and to be fair, so the Dash DAO has been going since 2015, so there's a lot of time that this has been going. For a while, it was too poor to do anything but fund the core team, and then like a meetup here and there.
Yeah.
And then 2017, when stuff really started picking up, it became like there's this big glut of like everyone running for the DAO, because December of 2017, the DAO was kicking out at 10 million a month. And so that's a lot. And people were funding branded jet fighter planes. People were doing champion MMA fighter Rory McDonald, proudly from Canada.
Yeah.
Was sponsored by Dash when he won his championship. You see the stuff. Tail Sonnen, another MMA fighter, also sponsored by Dash. A lot of big names came out. And then a lot of that's where the Thunderdome came from. It just became like a fight. And the thing is, the DAO, the technical structure that is a DAO, is very malleable. And it's basically, the culture is almost everything. So where I found today, the DAO was like stupid and had a lot of drama. And over years, they got smart and they got a lot less money. And so now I feel like it's efficiently allocated because most of it goes to my team, and then the core team is headed up by now a guy who codes a lot of the damn thing himself for like 16-hour days consistently.
Yeah.
And so then there's like a few other people that are also kind of there. But mostly it's just like, I think the days of like grifters in Dash are gone.
Yeah.
It's just not big enough. There's not enough money there, and it's too hard to get.
Yeah.
And so once you get the grifters gone, stinginess is one thing. Like, you should not be stingy, but like, get rid of the grifters and then just figure out, like, I've given a lot of therapy to Cal over the last few months as he's dealt with one of the most ambitious proposals on the entire Hive, ecosystem. And I'm not going to get involved in that whole DAO fight at all. But it is kind of interesting how, like, also when you have an amateur DAO,
Yes.
which everything starts out amateur because there was no DAO until 2015 with Dash, and then everything else afterwards, right? It takes a while to learn how to do it right.
Yeah.
And in the absence of professional critiques and measures and feedback like that, people know something's off instinctively, and then they just find things like, well, we don't even know this guy, or he's just gonna, they find like weird little salty ways of like poking at proposals that are a substitute for valid criticism that they actually have, but they don't know how to articulate. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And it's quite interesting because we're like, oh, tribalism in this space is so real. But it also happens inside the communities as well. But I think the point of articulation is such an astute one, because most people just want to be heard. And in Hive's case, that's literally what our blockchain is for. And it's a positive mechanism, and it can be a negative mechanism because you have the ability to post on Hive about proposals that you like or don't like. And that's used to great effect. But the problem is everybody knows everybody else. And there are the most sort of trusted and the most prolific content creators who may have an opinion one way or the other. And so sometimes it feels like you make a proposal and you get one person who makes a valid criticism or who doesn't know how to make a valid criticism and writes a post, and you feel like, oh my God, the blockchain's attacking me. There's hate speech being written about me, even though that's not what it is. And so you have to be really able to open yourself to taking a critique, even if it's delivered sometimes even in bad faith, and just, okay, let me pick through the trash. Is there anything in here that I can use? Let me throw chuck it in the fucking bucket, the rest of it. And that's a skill that is really hard because all of us are inherently harmed by what we feel like maybe isn't fair criticism. And we're also harmed by attacks on our passion projects. And it's most of the people who make even poor critiques are not malicious, but it's very difficult for us to pick through. And some are malicious, but even though they're malicious, they actually have the seeds of what you need to succeed. And that is a skill that even I face it. You're right. In some ways, to some people, I guess I'm treated a bit like a darling. And so even for me, some people I have only in my life blocked on any social media, like maybe 2 or 3 people in my entire life. And I would say it's only on Hive that I've used granular tools to just be like, no, we cannot do this. This is not productive. And I cannot give energy to this. And as much as I know very well exactly what I'm doing and exactly where valid criticisms are, because I'm a very flawed human, fuck, some of them hurt and they're annoying and I don't like it and they're wearing me down. And I think that's a huge challenge in this space, DAO or not. Anytime you stay in a disruptive tech space long enough, you will be in the splash zone and you will get hit. And how resilient are you? Can you take a financial attack, number go up and down, alongside mental energy? It's a very, somewhere there are crypto therapists making bank.
Oh yeah. I mean, for my own part, always worked very hard for the DAO. And for a period of time, the group I was involved with sort of allowed me to be a scapegoat for some things as a more public figure. And I ended up having like generational haters who just followed me around. they're all kind of gone now because they're just not involved with Dash, or they don't care, or they stop criticizing because they realize that I'm valuable, but they're not going to be a lover either. They're still going to be a very silent hater who will grudgingly vote yes. But there's one person, and I will call them out by pseudonym Demo, and I will send you some links so you can check it out. Everyone loves and hates Demo. Demo is I'm trying to find the right way, but I would say a mentally not very well person. And no offense to Demo and his however one Dash that he owns or whatever, but it's always charming to see the small critiques of this individual. And it's kind of like the Demo represents DAOs and community. There's always one wheel on the shopping cart. There's always, you don't have to, obviously should not call them out by name, but do you have your own Demo?
Yes, very much so. And initially I was as I said, I was so uncomfortable that I'd never experienced something like that before. And to be fair, people have tried to dox me. I've been stalked, like all the things that happen in the space. And this isn't because of the DAO. This is just existing in an online space and being somewhat public. For a while there, it's happened. But yes, it's funny because when you build, and often when I come to these conferences, I talk a lot about the human side of blockchain, is that we are building tech that breeds more tech, that is tech focused, and it's very it's very technological. The tech is tech, and it's building tech, and it is tech.
Yo, dog, I heard you like tech.
Yeah, I put some tech in your tech so you can tech while you tech. But the reason that I harp on that is because we forget that even the reasons we build tech are to serve human needs. And inherently, we build things that function the way we think. So even though we're building technology, we're humans building human tech for humans. And the reason I say that a lot is because if you build a blockchain for humans, you cannot be surprised when they come and human all over it. That is what happens. And so that is something that I always try and remind people who come to Hive is just like if you walk down the street, you're going to bump into people who rub you the wrong way, or you're going to get people that you just don't jive with. And in this space, it can feel like, oh my God, I can't escape them. But it's just because communities are not as big as they would be. You can't just walk out into a town of 50,000, I guess it's more bigger than a city of 50,000 people. You immediately get lost. That person is gone. But on a blockchain where even it's 50,000 users a day, it feels small, and it is small. And so the human aspect cannot be sort of brought up enough as part of how people see themselves in this space, for sure.
The human aspect is very interesting to me because of how kind of how the relevancy is different. So just my little anecdote is, I be on X, I be dumping on maxis. That's what I do. That's part of what I do. That's my most successful thing I post about. I post about stuff I'd rather post about. It doesn't do as well. So anyway, I go to the Bitcoin conference last year. I'm in a vulnerable position because it's before my coffee. I'm on my way in, and some random person says, "Hey, how's it going? You're what's his face, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, who are you?" "Oh yeah, I'm so and so." I'm like, "You're the guy you were just trolling on Twitter." I'm like, "God damn it." And he's like, "Oh, I actually agree with a lot of what you said. You have some disagreements." So he was cool about it. Point is, people, and I have a lot of actual personal friends that we're good friends with. When they get into that online context, all of a sudden they're doing a thing. They're fronting. I don't know what it is. If you could, it's a super complicated concept. So I'm trying to keep it brief, but what do you think is this thing where people are in the world, you bump into the world, "Hey, how's it going? You're fine." And then in the context of this very small online pocket, they get very weird and pushy. And then it's a very strange thing. They change in that, but then when they see it in real life, it's different. What do you think that is?
I don't know what it is, but I have observed it firsthand in that Hive is a community, and Steem, even going back to Steem, all of us have known each other for a long time. But we haven't always met in person. But we do these big gatherings. We do Hive Fests. And I think they are the most valuable thing on the planet because they basically put you face to face with somebody who you've probably either only read their content and been like, I hate I can think of multiple people that they're on. It's not even a persona, but just the way they conduct themselves online. Oh my God, what are you doing? And then I meet them in person. I'm like, oh, you're delightful. Why are you like this? And this is what it is. And I'm sure that I am perceived the same way by others. And I don't know what it is. But you're also right that that abstraction from the human form allows us to be bullies online or allows us to act differently. And we do often, the medium is the message. And when we are engaging online, often it shapes the way and the things that we say that we wouldn't do in person for one reason or another. So maybe that's not a huge surprise, but it is, again, a big component of our space. And I think it's important to this space in general. It's the same thing where, you have Bitcoin maxis that will freak out online, but then, you'll see them in non-Bitcoin only conferences and everything is fine. It's fine. I also think the sort of rise of crypto fighting has probably helped this a lot. I think there's a lot of tensions that are being released in the whole crypto combat aspect of things now. So,
oh yeah, you mean like karate combat?
Yeah. That, and there's quite a bit, right? Like obviously, that's the biggest sort of one that is driving things now. But there's lots of let's pit people against each other, and you know what? It's kind of like hockey is the Canadian euphemism for it. Is in in general.
Almost got wrecked right there.
She caught it though. In general, if you give people an outlet for some of these things that maybe can't even just be said, then you have your Donnybrook. You have a little, you get your fisticuffs out, and then you just have a beer afterwards, and it's done. And it's done. And that's a good option. I'm not saying that you need to solve your problems with violence. I am saying that at least there are some sanctioned venues that works well in.
Yeah, I definitely get it. Just the last little thing, because they're cleaning up around us, and also I have to make sure that I actually had it recorded the whole time. There's always a chance. I think 80% yes, but there's a 20% no. So you might never see this if you're looking. You're not looking because you're not seeing it. We talk about trying to work full time in this thing, or the thought of it. I would have to say from my own experience there's a necessity of taking the plunge. In the end of 2015, I got so interested in crypto, and my old public policy career was not really what I wanted. And so I just said, you know what, from now on, I'm not going to get paid unless it's with Bitcoin. And that's it. I just quit my job. I'm like, what do I do now? Yeah. Shit. And figured it out. And then it's just okay, I got in there, started doing stuff, started getting involved in Dashed Out. In the beginning of 2014, when I would jump full time, I had other job things I was looking at, other things, and I was like, do I really want to go back to this? And I just had an idea of what I was going to do and just kind of went for it and made it happen. And so security, here's the thing about crypto. Crypto is 94% risk.
Yeah.
There is nothing that's not, and that's where the opportunity comes from. From my perspective, the only way I've been able to deal with this super risky everything is by finding a way to handle the risk to where if things crash to 90%, can I still pay my bills? Yes. Okay. If this happens, can I? Okay. So then all the risk happens and I'm okay. So I guess the question to you then, so you want to be safe. It's not going to happen. I'm calling it now.
Yeah.
If you want to transition to actual full-time with either Hive or Hive and other things or all other things or whatever in the passion zone of crypto and Web3, how are you going to basically, do you have any ideas on how you would structure it so that you could deal with that risk and just be like, you know what, if this proposal doesn't go through, I have a buffer for a couple months and I have other things I'm working on anyway, and I'll get it in and then I'll find where I need to go and I'll just be okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something you could do, is just figure it out?
Yeah. And so it's interesting because the risk aversion has been beaten out of me. Being in crypto this long, it's gone. It's completely gone. And so it makes me laugh. Like I just had a meeting with
Like there's no risk of losing anything because I already lost it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't hurt me. I'm already dead inside. But
Right behind us is the Hide the Pain Herald meme token. And there's a funny meme I saw with the Hide the Pain Herald. It's like when you just invested in a shitcoin trying to flip it, but somehow you end up being a community member.
yes, well, boy, that's everybody's experience on Hive.
Yeah.
Pain. No, and so it's interesting because I've kind of come to this point on my own. The only reason I stay in the job that I have been for so long is actually not the risk at all. Yes, there is sort of, I need to figure out, okay, what am I going to do just so I have some expectations for what I'm going to ask for. But it's not the risk that keeps me away. It's more, I really love what I'm doing there and I find it meaningful. So that's helpful. But also I haven't quite figured out here what it is I want to do because right now I wear many, many hats. And while that's great and it's fun, it's also infuriating, frustrating, and I pick up a lot of jobs I don't want to do and that do not drive me. But
At least you get paid.
if I got paid, it would make a different story. But I don't want to move into a space because right now I can stop them. I can stop them and I can say, I don't want to do this anymore. And in some ways I have. My stepping back is not, I hate you, I'm stepping back. It's just, okay, well, nope, this is the reality of my life. But if there's a job that I don't want to do, I'm not being paid and I will not do it. And that's it. And so locking myself into a position that potentially could encompass those things that this is not what I'm here for. That is the part that has required me to, what do I want to do and where will that be? And I am leaning towards, I have to admit, these types of conferences are fun. And also like headhunters are here. And I get a lot of people kind of probing, what is it that you're doing? Or what else can you do? And so that's going to be the challenge for me.
And you read a unicycle. What about a funny hat?
Funny hat. I can do funny hat. I can hold the unicycle. I can put the hat on the unicycle. But yeah, exactly. So that is my challenge now. And I think that's what it's going to be a big change for me in the next couple months is where will I end up? And can I properly define A, what I want, B, what I can do, and how do I turn those into a value proposition for a company? And is that something that Hive wants? I'm not sure, frankly. And so the fastest answer to that and what has been proposed to me many times is, well, shit, just make a foundation on Hive, do it all yourself, start it up and make a position for yourself. No.
I like the last step.
Yeah.
Skip to the last step. In other words, do what you want and bill for it.
Yes. And so there's a couple of reasons that is a no. And one of them is I am not willing to be the person that kind of sets the corporatization and the foundational tone for Hive. And it can be done in a decentralized way, but that's not my goal. I have no problems working for one and helping to guide them and keep them to best principles, but that is not my bag. Project management is, but not that, and a lot of the aspects that go along with it. But I also do like guiding people out of Web 2, and I suspect that where I end up will be in some capacity to that, a hybridized business or a position that allows me to be that conduit, same as I am in the community, and the same as I am between Hive and the outside. I think I will probably end up in a position where I'm doing the same kind of things, and of course, then will allow me to keep doing passion stuff for Hive. But that could change. If there is maybe not even a foundation, but some pointed leadership that says, okay, now is the time. Let's start looking at positions. Let's define them, and let's look at what the market value for them is. Then I would definitely consider throwing my hat in the ring. But to be the person that takes on creating those positions and then filling them and then making that into a job, no, thank you. Light me on fire, actually. Just do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of us are in this because we don't like that stuff anyway. But all right, so people are running around. We might be kicked out soon, but what are parting words or catchphrases or anything?
There are so many of those, and most of them I can't use. And most of them,
Yeah, there's one right there you could use. It's right on the shelf.
we're not doing it. We're not doing it. You're gonna have to live in curiosity about what we're discussing and what we're talking about. But and a lot of them used to come from my old streaming thing. But I will take sort of a piece of what I talked about here at this conference, and that is there is value in everything you do. You are an arbiter and a creator and a store of value in yourself, and that is why you need to come into this space. Is because for the first time ever, that value that is you don't see in yourself, that is constantly mined by centralized companies and capitalized on, you can have some agency over. Do not devalue yourself. Understand that your financial transactions, your social identity, all the things that make you you are incredibly valuable to the way the world works, and that you now have tools in place to either have control over what you provide voluntarily as your value, but also how you spend it, how you use it, who you let monetize it. You can monetize it yourself. This is a very exciting and terrifying time to be alive, but don't let people tell you you're not valuable.
Yes. In the words of my friend Chuck Williams, all value is belief. Also, someone needs to make little baby clothes, like a baby onesie. It says daddy's little store of value.
Patent pending. Patent pending.
Yeah.
We got a couple today.
Yeah, it's owned by you.
Yeah.
So let's end this now. Thanks everyone for watching. If this does get published, we'll figure it out, but might as well do it. Been a pleasure.
As always, you're a delight.
Thank you. Oh goodness.